back to the shop, you guys. Sorry it's been a little bit since we've had an upload. I wanted to kind of give a brief measurement now that we've got the first bike completely done and kind of show you the difference between the lowered bike and the regular bike. And then I'll switch with my son who's holding the camera right now and show you him getting on so you can kind of see what it looks like. But first of all, just want to remind you, this bike right here is the one that's been lowered. We have lowered about 1.5 inches out of the seat. We'll go over that in just a minute. But we do finally have the proper fork springs in here. If you remember on the last video I said that we were waiting for those, and that has made all the difference in the world. So what I want to do is I just want to kind of take some measurements so you guys can see the difference in fork length. I'm just going to measure the same on each one so you kind of know. But basically, if I measure, just for easy, you can back up a little bit, son. If I just measure from the bottom of the, you can measure from the center of the axle bolt or from the bottom of the bolt. Let's just take from the center of the axle bolt. And I come up to the top of the fork cap on this particular bike. It measures 35 and a half, almost 35 and 5/8. Now if I come over to this bike, the one that has not been lowered, you may not be able to see it real easily, but if I measure from the center of the axle, again on this bike, to the top of the fork tubes, that measures 37. So that's about 1.5 inches of difference, which is exactly what we wanted. And then if I measure the back, center of the axle, rear axle to just basically vertical, this is measuring about 24 inches, 2 feet. And if I come over here and I go straight up from the center of the axle, it's about 25 and 5/8, 25 and a half. So that's the difference, is 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to pull this bike off for just a second. Let me show you a couple of things. You do lose a little bit of ground clearance. Let's just show you here. You're going to expect it to be about 1.5 inches. That measures, nearly about 11, 11 3/4. Let me put the kickstand right here. That's 11 3/4 clearance. And then this bike measures it's about 13. So 1 1/4 inches roughly there. Now the other thing is, what you're really concerned about is the seat height. And as you can see, I've cut this seat down compared to this one. You can see the amount of space here. If I just measure right from the middle of that apex, the seat's about 4 3/4, 4.5. If I measure here, it's about 3 1/4. So about 1 inch to 1.5 inches there. And then the real thing is, if I get the bike straight up without any weight on it, the height ends up being less than 34 inches. It's about 34 inches. So if you have a 32-inch inseam and the height is 34 inches, by the time you sit on it, it's going to sag about 1 inch. You're just going to be tippy-toeing basically. And this one measures 37. So what did I say, 34 and 37. So basically this bike, the sitting position is 3 inches lower than stock. 3 inches lower than stock, but you only lose about 1.25 inches in ground clearance. So that's a pretty good trade-off, I think. Now, let me just kind of move this. Actually, let me get this bike up out of the way. Oops, a little too close there. And then I'll pull this bike over, and then like that. And I'll trade cameras here. Let's just see what it looks like with, whoop, sorry, I zoomed in. Wait, hang on a second, buddy. Let me back up, jump off. So this is Luke. He's 5 foot. We just measured him just now. He's 5'5". Go ahead and go climb on there, bud. And you can see how much easier it is. And now sitting up, he's on tippy toes, but totally in control of sitting on the bike. Can you put your left foot up on the foot peg and the right foot holds you up? You can see how much easier that is. Sorry, I've got all kinds of stuff in the garage here. Let me come over here where you can see from the front. And you can see how much easier that would be to manage. Now, if you're 5'4", 5'3", you can still manage that just fine. Sorry, I'm moving around so you guys can see. You can still manage that really well, and you're only giving up, you know, you're not even giving up a full 1.5 inches. It didn't measure, you know, maybe 1.5 inches of ground clearance. Let me see if I can come over here. It's kind of hard to see, but you guys get the idea. Go ahead and go back and forth with your left foot and your right foot so you can kind of see how much easier that is just with 1.5 inches of suspension lowering. Now, we've had this bike on the trail already, but we didn't have the seat lowered and we didn't have the proper front springs, the cut down springs that are 1.5 inches shorter in there. Luke, come trade me one more time with the camera. I'm gonna have you hang on to this for just a second, bud. And I'm gonna have you back up over here. I'm just gonna show you what the front, if you can kind of just hone in on the front suspension there from where you're at. If I grab the front brake and you can see how much softer that initial travel was. Before, we had 1.5 inches of preload on the springs that was moving like this. If that, you couldn't hardly move it. Now, it's just like stock. So really will be good and compliant. The back is just like stock was. So overall, I think it's worthwhile thing. So let me take this. Thank you, Luke. I can take it from here, bud. So that bike completely done. This bike's the one we're going to show you how to do it on. That's the next thing. I have the parts. This from Race Tech. These are going to be the spacers for the rear shock. And then these, I've had Lindsay Machine cut them down. They forgot to send them to me cut down. These are the spacers for the forks. If you use this part number right here for this bike, they might have a different part number for yours. They come in 2-inch lengths, and I only wanted to lower 1.5 inches. So they forgot to cut them down. They will cut them down for you for free, but Lindsay Machine cut those down on their lathe for me to 1.5 inches. So, and we have the proper front fork springs in there that I will show you as well. So there you go, guys. That's the basic bottom line. Sorry, I'm huffing a puff and just had a huge dinner. But seats cut down, forks down, and it's going to be a great bike for all 3 of my boys. Have thrown a leg over it, and it's just really much better for them lowered. So the next video I will show you will be how to lower the front forks. And then the next video, it might take 2 videos to show you how to do the rear shock. And then there's hundreds of videos on how to take seat foam out of the seat and recover it like we did here. So we probably won't take any time doing that. But anyway, thanks for being patient with me, folks. We'll keep you updated here as soon as I can get to those that other bike. I will do it and I'll video it and then I will post it up for you guys. Anyway, have a great night. Duff Actor gone.